What if the universe is in a constant state of sending you feedback? Welcome to There Will Be Signs, a podcast that celebrates the stories, synchronicities, and strange nudges that remind us there's more to life than what we see. Here we'll talk to deeply intuitive guests and offer practical ways to connect to the magic, whimsy, and unseen helpers that exist around you every single day, because you are supported, dear listener. It may not always feel that way, but there will be signs. All right, welcome to There Will Be Signs. Hello, Amanda. How's it going?
Hello. All good. Juggling, as we said.
Yeah, we were just talking offline here about our schedules and how crazy they are, and it's that time of year, I guess. So
when is it not that time of year?
I know, it's always that time of year. So we have today, we're going to do a quick intro because of our schedules and juggling and all of that stuff. But I did want to mention that I was really inspired by our last conversation with Tammy, the numerologist. I've been thinking a lot about numbers, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I would love to have her back at some point because you could just dive so much deeper than we did. I feel like, there's so many more questions that I have now.
It was a long session, but good long.
It was a very good, very long session. So excited that that's out there. And I'm also really excited about today. We have Debi Garrett we're going to be chatting with today. She's based in the UK. She's a Reiki master teacher specializing in Usui and Usui Holy Fire Reiki. She is the Standards and Governance Ambassador for UK Reiki Federation, one of the largest professional Reiki bodies in the UK and Europe. She also works with human design, tarot, and the Akashic Records, helping people remember who they are and what lights them up. There's more. She's the best-selling author of The Call of the Sacred Rebel, where she shared her own story of sovereignty and personal revolution against the norms of society and her traditional upbringing. She's also an artist, a mom of 2 children, a devoted cat slave, as she says, to her rescue cat, Raven, and a long-term volunteer with the St. John Ambulance NI as emergency ambulance crew and soon-to-be emergency response driver. So she's got a lot going on.
Juggling to shame.
I know. She's doing it all. All right, so I guess without further ado, let's chat with her. I'm really excited to hear more about her story.
I don't even know where to start. I think we need an 8-part series just about Debi.
Let's welcome her in. Let's see. All right. Hello, Debi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, I'm good. I volunteer with St. John Ambulance, so I was out this morning. We had a surprise visit from the royal family this morning, and we didn't know they were coming, so I thought I was covering a craft fair, and then the king and queen and it was like, oh, hi.
Wow. Oh my God, Debi, Killian was just going over your resume, and I was like, when does this woman sleep? She has so much going on, and then you casually drop that you were like, oh yeah, I saw the royal family this morning or today.
Yeah, I saw them for about 3 seconds, and then somebody got overexcited and fainted, so I had to go and deal with that. But so I missed most of it, but we saw them arrive. But it was very
wow.
It's interesting because none of us knew it was happening until the very last second. So, but yeah, that's been my day. What about you? Is it morning for you guys?
I had oatmeal with some berries. It was good.
Nice.
Yep. Slow, casual morning.
Nice.
Not quite the same, but that's fun. It feels kind of exciting to be looped into this memorable day for you.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Awesome.
I was doing a favor. I wasn't supposed to be on duty, and then somebody needed it covered, and it was like, oh, okay, I can do it. So,
and look how it turned out.
It's how it turned out. It's all good.
What an apropos example of sometimes right time, right place. You don't expect to be somewhere, and then you decide to help somebody out, and then something kind of fun and special happens.
Yeah.
We were talking about that in another episode. So I'm like, you make one choice and all these other things change just by being like, oh, Debi was able to answer the call this morning because she was not cleaning berries and eating oatmeal, and she answered the call, and this whole other day turned out rather than what could have happened.
Yeah. Beats sitting at the computer all day, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
What part of the UK are you in?
So I'm in the north of Ireland. So
Oh,
yeah, bit of a unique political situation. So we're part of the UK, but we're also part of Ireland. So it's
Mhm.
uh, it's an interesting spot.
yeah, I imagine. I
Yeah.
imagine. We love to ask our guests about their sun, moon, and rising when we kick
Mm,
off. Do you happen to
yeah,
know your three?
I do indeed. I have a Capricorn sun, an Aquarius rising, and a Gemini moon.
Ooh,
Fun.
that's a
Mm.
fun combination.
Isn't it? Yeah, my astrologer
Yeah.
laughed when she told me that. She was like, yeah. She says, so Capricorn wants to build it. Aquarius
Yeah.
wants to like rip it down. Gemini
Yeah.
wants to just talk about it.
Yeah.
Just
That's
like, yeah,
exactly right.
that's it.
Yeah. And what about your human design? I know you're trained in
Yeah,
it. So what's
I
your human
am. Yeah,
design?
I am a manifesting generator, a 3/5. So again, a little bit of everything, which probably explains the resume, the bio, because
Mm-hmm.
I like to do lots of things. I can't just be doing
Mm-hmm.
one
Mhm.
thing. You know, what
Yeah.
about you guys?
I'm a manifesting generator as well.
Yeah,
Gosh, I forget. It's like the role model one, the 6-2.
yeah,
Do you know
cool.
your human design, Amanda?
I have no idea. I've actually never heard of human design before today.
There you go.
And I would benefit to learn from it, but I've
Yeah,
never heard of this.
yeah,
Well, you're about to
cool.
find out.
You can find out about it.
I would love that. I'm kind of that part of this like podcast that Killian has a lot more intel, and I will happily represent those who are less informed about some
Yeah,
topics and will need to get that intel for themselves.
Earlier in the
100%.
journey. Yes.
Yeah,
And you, so before we dive into anything specific, you work with human design and Reiki and the Akashic Records.
yeah, and tarot.
So
Yeah,
and tarot, right?
yeah,
So we most of us know about tarot, and we've had an episode on that. But I'm curious if you could kind of explain. I mean, Reiki is pretty well known, but human
yeah,
design, the Akashic Records. If you could give
yeah.
a description on those.
Yeah, sure. So human design, if we start there, human design it's a fascinating tool. It doesn't tell you who you are, but it tells you how you operate and how you move through life. So it's kind of about your wiring, and about your natural way of moving through this earth walk that we're on. So it combines astrology and your birth chart along with aspects from the I Ching. There's aspects in there from like the I Ching sort of part of it is like all the different gates and there's like 64 different gates, and it can become quite complex. And there's also aspects of the chakra system and things in there. So there's 3 or 4 big sort of aspects that are sort of collated together to create what's called this body graph. And the body graph then has these 9 energy centers. And these 9 energy centers, they can be, we all have all of the chart all of the time because it's all there. But depending on your time of birth and where the planets were and everything, so it's very linked to your astrology, it will light up certain parts of the chart, which will indicate then how you best move through life. Whether you're a manifesting generator, for example, that's your aura types. There's like 5 aura types. Manifesting generators and generators make up about 70% of the human population, with projectors, reflectors, and manifestors making up the rest. And it's really interesting because depending on how your design is, you may well find that, a little bit like me and potentially you, Killian, you can confirm like maybe you like to be doing lots of different things, and maybe you just have like a lot of energy when it's something that lights you up, when it's something that you want to do, you can feel inspired and just keep going. Whereas sometimes if you're a manifester, you can maybe start something and then run out of energy for it. You're brilliant with ideas, maybe ahead of your time, lots and lots of really good ideas, but then perhaps maybe you run out of steam for them and you go, okay, well, I'm bored with that now, I move on to something else. So you may have been accused as a child of never finishing anything, or of potentially being lazy because you might need some extra sleep and a little nap in the afternoon. Projectors as well. Projectors love to teach and love to share their wisdom and their expertise, but only if they're invited to do so. And again, they would need potentially a little bit more rest periods than generators or manifesting generators. So in turn, they may have been told as well that they were lazy, or that they weren't committed, or that they, so it's quite interesting when I start picking through people's charts, because I tend to do that with my clients. I'm like, give me your birth details and I'll have a look. And it helps me then understand how to work with them best. because depending on how they're wired will be very much whether they're, whether they make decisions with their heart, whether they make decisions with their sacral, whether they make decisions with their head, whether they need to talk it through first, because we have all different types of authority. So it's a fascinating subject.
It
really
is. I feel like any company would love to have this done, like a profile for like employees.
It would be
Just to
fabulous
see
for
how
that.
best to work and to where to put these people if
Where
they're
to
not
put people for their natural way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes it easier on the person and the workflow and brings them to their highest self.
100%.
Okay, I will look mine up after this call.
We will. We'll look yours up. I'm curious to know. I remember digging into it fairly deeply for myself, and then I forget some of the specifics. But what I didn't realize, because I wasn't really familiar until recently with the I Ching, and I didn't realize that the gates are related to the I Ching. So that's really interesting and cool to know.
Yeah.
It does seem like a marriage of a lot of different frameworks.
It really is, because it brings the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life in as well, because that's kind of like the shape of the body graph. So it brings those aspects in. It brings aspects, like I say, of the I Ching and the different sort of, depending on the chart that you use, because you can have like a mandala type chart that then is lit up in a different way. But yeah, it does. It's a fusion of all these different types. And then there's an evolution of it happening now called quantum human design, which is opening up different energy centers and different terminology, which is actually really interesting. So that's in its infancy at the moment, and it's good to watch to see how that's going to unfold.
That's really cool. I love hearing that. And then what about the Akashic Records? Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Akashic Records, it's something, it would be more my like a secondary skill set that I use. I use it more really for myself rather than for clients, although I do work with clients to take them into the records and things. So the records, if you want to think of it as, it's the repository or the information bank of all your experiences for this lifetime and all lifetimes past, present, future, all options that are there, all potential that's there. It's almost like the quantum field that exists for you and your, I don't know, some people like to call it, they vision it like a library where you can go in and you can like, pull through the books and find out information. Other people see it very much nowadays as a supercomputer with all this stuff and all this information, and you can go like a massive internet of all your experiences. But it's a place where there's unconditional love, no judgment. You can go in there and just feel at peace. You can access your own records. You have a gatekeeper that protects your records because confidential information. You don't want any Tom, Dick or Harry going in and having a little rifle through what Amanda did in 1604 whenever she was, perhaps in another life. So it's very much about accessing the wisdom that's there for us in a space of non-judgment, pure love, compassion for yourself and for the experiences you've had. It's a space where you can find healing. It's a space where you can find guidance. It's a space where you can chat with your spirit team, your guidance team. It's just a beautiful place to kind of hang out, and you can take your questions. You can take, sometimes I would open the records and then maybe journal and then just sit and just write, because the records feed off your energy as well. So it's not a passive experience. It's not like where you just sort of sit and go, okay, tell me all the things. It's a conversation. It's an exchange with your guides and with your soul, essentially. So it's a very cool place to hang out.
And I took a class a while back on the Akashic Records. Do you use that kind of same poem or like gateway opener that
you can do? Yeah.
What are the various ways to get in, I suppose?
Yeah, there's loads of different ways to get in, because I mean, there's no one size fits all with this. Ultimately, the Akashic Records are not outside of you. They belong to your Akashic Records are yours. So you can access them in many different ways. You can access them through a guided meditation. You can access them through working with an Akashic Records guide, like me, for example, that would help you walk into them and take you through that sort of journey experience. You can access them through intentionally just setting the intention, creating that sacred space for yourself and saying, I want to enter the records. Yes, the opening prayer is a very beautiful way, because what it does is it takes you from this ordinary reality where, you've been, out doing whatever you've been doing for the day. And then you're like, well, actually, I want to set the intention now and shift gears and move into a different space. So it helps you consciously work with them. A lot of people work with them unconsciously and don't realize that's what they're doing. So if you're communing with your guides or you're checking in with your tarot cards or your oracle cards, quite often you're pulling the information from the records because it's your information. It's already in you. It's your highest self is pulling that information in.
Yeah. Would you say that consciousness in general is linked to the Akashic Records, or is there more outside of the Akashic Records? Or is essentially that like collective consciousness the Akashic Records? How would you differentiate those two?
I believe the Akash for me is this collective. There is a collective consciousnness and a collective wisdom there. I am sure there are bound to be other spaces, and I know, like I've trained in shamanism. I've journeyed to different spaces, alternative realities, and things. There is an awful lot of other things out there. There's a bit of a debate as to whether the Akash is everything. Is the Akash potentially the entire quantum field from which everything originates? In which case, then it is everything there is. Is the Akash source? Is it potentially a room that we visit? Is it a space that we visit that's like an intermediary between us and source? I mean, I don't have those answers. For me, I don't feel the need to go looking anywhere else. I feel such a connection in there, you know?
You know, when people say that they're not using their whole brain, I really feel like that right now. Like I'm not using my whole soul and brain to tap into those files, essentially, and records. And now I want to.
Yeah. What I love about the Akashic Records is because they're part of you, because they're part of your soul's wisdom, you don't need to go and ask someone else. You can tune in yourself, but then obviously it's about, well, do you trust that? Do you trust what you get? Because a lot of times we get the signs, we get the downloads, we get these intuitive hits, and then we immediately second guess ourselves. So sometimes then that's where working with a guide can help, because my job as the guide is to essentially go with you into your records and assist, and either go in for you with your permission so that we can pull information, or to guide you through and to help you see what there is to see. And that's my preferred way of doing it, because I prefer to let the client lead the way rather than me potentially go in with my filter and my projection, because we're human, we're going to project even though we say we leave everything at the door.
Debi, how did you become a guide?
I actually trained in the Akashic Records just last year. I had been interested in them for a decade or more, but I had not formally trained. I had been in and out myself, just doing the thing. We've all read books, we've all gone to little workshops and done bits and pieces, and I'd been very interested in them, but I had never trained as an actual guide for other people. And one of my Reiki masters is massive in the Akashic Records field, Melissa Amos, and she
we'll be talking to her.
You
soon.
gotta talk to her. Yeah, she is the queen of Akashic Records. If you want an episode on Akashic Records, she is the queen of the Akashic Records. She has the most beautiful soul. So she's one of my Reiki masters, and she was running a program called Soul School. And she then, she was putting invitations out. She was like, this is going to be, going to teach you how to access the records for yourself and access them for other people, and give you interventions and psychological interventions you can do with people. And she put together this beautiful curriculum. And then I worked with her for a period of 6 months last year, going through all the different trainings and all the different, experiences that we had to have, and attunements and different things that she brought in. And now it's really interesting, because I'm sure, as you know, Melissa has this fabulous new modality called Akashic Reiki, which I'm sure she's going to talk to you about. And that was kind of born from her work with Holy Fire Reiki and the Akashic Records. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into the Akashic Records as a guide. But I'd spent many years myself always being quite interested. And I think for me, when I was working with shamanism, I kind of saw the correlation between the different realms in the shamanic worlds, the lower world, the middle world, upper world. And I was like, the upper world felt very Akashic in its vibe to me. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. There's like overlap and layers.
Yeah.
But I think that happens across all the different modalities anyway. I think no matter what tool you're using, it all is accessing the same stuff.
Which is why I think it's so fascinating that you were drawn to human design as well, right? Which is a marriage of so many different modalities. It really is. It's like different language, same
Yeah.
energetic. I have so many questions for you that are I'm like, where do I start? You have a really interesting story about
Yes.
how Reiki found you. And I would love for you to just touch on your journey, how it started.
Yeah, sure. I had never heard of it. I'd never heard of it. I was just a normal person. Yeah. Normal in inverted commas.
Still normal.
Still normal. I had never really encountered it as a young child. I had been quite spiritual. I suppose I didn't know that was the word for it, but I was very aware of energy, and I was very aware of the presence of like spirit in the house. I just kind of knew it was there. My parents were a bit older, but my parents were very Christian, and I learned very quickly that this was not something that was going to go down well. So we kept that quiet, and you do your thing, you grow up. My father passed away when I was 14. He had a sudden death, and that really shocked me to my core. And at that point, I kind of did the teenage thing of, let's throw up a big thick wall of protection. Nobody's getting close, and I'm just going to get my head down and get on with life. I didn't want to rock the boat too much for my mum, and I just thought, right, I'm going to do my thing, but I'll keep on the surface, I'm a good girl, but they'll keep the rebellion behind the wall and keep everything sort of kind of quieter. Got married, had kids, got the job, did all the thing, all the normal stuff. And I was holding down a job, had a couple of kids, and I was the main breadwinner in the house. My husband also earned money, but he was working, but I earned twice as much as him because I was working in IT. So I was working in technology fields, and suddenly I was made redundant, and I went, what am I going to do now? And up until that point, just prior to that point, after the birth of my second child, I had kind of fallen into a bit of depression, and I knew I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. I was just like everyone else on that hamster wheel of life where you're just going through the motions, eat, sleep, work, repeat, eat, sleep, work, repeat. And it was just, I was taking antidepressants. I was looking for the answers at the bottom of a bottle of wine, not getting those answers, but, and I was just trying to find anything. And I suppose in hindsight, that was a lot of sign. There was a lot of signs coming my way, ding, ding, you're not happy, ding, ding, you're not happy. But of course I was like this tunnel vision, just getting on. So the redundancy came, and it felt like a real tower moment from like the tower. It was like somebody had just ripped the rug out from underneath me, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, I've been made redundant. And he goes, what are you going to do about it? And I went, ooh. But Mike, okay. And I kind of realized, I think subconsciously at that point, I kind of went, oh, this is not going to end well. And that night on the sofa, I stayed down on the settee in the living room, and I could hear him snoring through the floorboards upstairs. And I was so cross with him. I was so upset. I just didn't know where to put myself. There was a little gap in the blinds, and the moon was shining through, and the moon kind of caught me. And in that moment, that was my like sort of wake up call. It was like, when did you forget who you were? When did you stop writing? When did you stop drawing? When did you stop having fun? When did you start taking life so seriously? And I was like, I don't know. But in that moment, I knew that no one was going to rescue me. I had to do it myself. And I was like, right, okay. And I still haven't found Reiki at this point. Reiki didn't find me for another 3 years. But that moment started something with me, and I was like, right. I picked myself up, dusted myself off, got myself another job just to make ends meet. But the seed had been sown that I never wanted an employer to do that to me again. And I wanted to work for myself in some way. And I went back to my first love of crystals and crystal healing. And because I always loved crystals, I had no idea what they were for. And I was like, these are shiny, I like. So I was like buying all the crystals. And I trained in crystal healing alongside my job. So I was working all day, and then in the evenings I was studying crystal healing. That opened the door to aura and chakra work, which then started to point me down the direction of this thing called Reiki. And when I found Reiki, when Reiki found me, it completely transformed everything. Those big walls that I had built started to come down. When I did my master training back in 2012, the walls came crashing down. And from the outside, it must have looked like I had lost my mind, because I quit my job, left the husband, ended up with my best friend who's female, and we're still together. Yay! It was just like, let's just watch a life go by. Like I was finally given permission to be me.
Yeah.
It was like Reiki
Yeah.
handed
We love
that to me. So that's kind of,
Oh.
in a nutshell, that's kind of how Reiki found me. And then from there, it
Mm.
opened all the other doors. It opened the doors to shamanism, to tarot, to human design, to
Wow.
Akashic Records. And it's the foundation of everything.
It was the snoring. It was
Yeah,
the
it's the
snoring.
It's the snoring. It's always the snoring.
That was very powerful for me. I felt like full body chills when you said the moon hit you. And I mean, I had tears coming up in my eyes. Like my eyes are stinging still. That feeling of like, when did I lose myself?
Mm.
I think that's such a common feeling, not a common feeling, but it's like so many of us have those moments of, it's almost like the signs were so loud that you had to listen, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you were like, okay, I see you now. So moving. It's so powerful. I have a selfish question that I want to ask you, which is about kind of your Celtic roots, because I have Celtic roots. It's something that I've been really curious about. I'm in the US, so I'm far removed. But when it comes to shamanism, and I know, I mean, I've been doing some research and there's just so much rich, magical history that is Celtic.
Yeah.
And when you learned shamanism, was it with a Celtic lens? Can you just touch on how your ancestry speaks to your work?
So I didn't initially train with a Celtic lens. I did train with a shaman who was a shamanic practitioner from Northern Ireland, from here.
Sure.
And she had trained with someone from Ireland. So she had trained through those, but she had been trained in traditional shamanism. So it was there was very much the Native American flavor of it. There was very much also like a Peruvian flavor, like an Andean sort of flavor going on with it. So it was kind of like a little bit of a mix of the Americas being brought in. And it's fabulous. Fabulous. But once I really got into it, I started to think, well, surely we as Celts must have our own, right? As human beings, this is the thing. There's an awful lot of arguments about cultural appropriation and taking things that belong to other traditions and other cultures. But shamanism's a human tradition. It's the oldest practice. There's artifacts and shamanic tools that have been found dating back hundreds of thousands of years. So it's from very early humans. They were practicing this connection with the land. So it doesn't matter whether you're Celt, whether you're American, whether you're Aborigine, whether you're from anywhere in the world, a human being has a direct connection. So that in itself, we're all on an earth walk. So from a start, I did then start to get quite interested with Celtic shamanism, and I started to, I didn't do formal study, but I've started to read an awful lot around it. Rhonda McCrimmon is a very, very well-known Scottish shamanic practitioner. If you haven't spoken to her, you should get you her details. She's fabulous.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, no, she's really cool. So she's in Scotland, and I started to follow her work, and I started to understand that actually there's so much more. There's so much more from a Celtic point of view. Now, interestingly, and I mentioned this earlier when I said I'm from the north of Ireland, my personal heritage is Ulster Scots. So it's not Irish as such, it's Ulster Scots. But the more that I have started to tap into the history of sort of Ireland, my son is currently teaching himself Irish so that he can speak the language. And as he's been doing that, he has really started to explain to me some different things. It's so lovely to learn from him because he's explaining then to me why we say certain things. In Northern Ireland, we have certain turns of phrases that we would use that come directly from the Irish. I've got more and more intrigued with this feeling of the deep connection to the land of Ireland and the Irish roots that are there, because honestly, I think everybody wants to be Irish. Everybody wants to be like I know this. Everybody wants to be Irish.
I do not, according to my blood work or whatever, but
Amanda's very Polish through and through.
Yeah.
Right?
I love
Mostly.
Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly extremely. But like I love the mysticism that surrounds like that part of the world. Yeah. I find that fascinating.
There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot. Because as I started to explore shamanism and I started to explore these different things, you know, as I say, Reiki opened the door to a treasure trove of like, oh, what else is there? What else can I play with? And then I took a course in fairy Reiki, where it was like working with the fairy kingdom, because obviously the fairies are a big thing in Ireland, right? Like none of us mess about with the fairy folk. You know, So it's very important that we don't mess about with the fae.
Same thing with Iceland.
Yeah.
Well, and I've also since learned, like in the last few weeks, learned that fairies are not necessarily like little, small, tiny creatures.
No,
They're human size.
Or bigger.
Or bigger.
They can be up to 7 foot tall. 7 feet tall. They're called the Sídhe.
I believe.
The Sídhe. Yeah. Sidhe, the Sídhe.
Well, thank you for indulging me in that.
You're welcome.
Oh, I want to talk about that forever now.
I know.
We need another hour.
We do. So, okay, let's shift gears back to signs, because in the work that you do, and you're tapping into a number of different energies, whether it's Reiki, you're kind of working on an individual. The Akashic Records is that higher level, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like human design is sort of the map. And I'm curious for you in your life, how do you tap into it to make decisions every day, like big and small decisions? How do you interact with all of this knowledge for your own life?
So my Reiki practice is a daily thing. Because as a Reiki teacher, I think if you don't walk your talk, then you've no business teaching other people. So I do give myself Reiki on a daily basis. I do work with it. It's just an intrinsic part of what I do. Even whenever I'm out volunteering in the ambulance, the Reiki's with me. It's there all the time, and it's something that's just always on. It's kind of just always there. So I nearly take it for granted. It's as natural as breathing for me. It's just what it is. It's just always there. Where I would sort of sit with decision making is I tend to use tarot quite a lot for the decision making work. So for working something through, I don't use tarot as a divination or fortune telling tool. I don't like it for that. It's very much for me about knowing yourself and understanding yourself. And it's a tool that's massively important for that. All my work is about knowing yourself. So I would use tarot, and the way I tend to use it is it's the one time where I will lean into AI and use it, because AI is a great tool. It has its faults, it has its problems, and environmental issues and all the, as an artist, I don't like it because it's not cool. But from a point of view of pattern recognition and tracking, it's very, very good. So I have created a tarot journal in my AI assistant where I put my own interpretations in my cards, and it logs it for me. And then what it does is it goes, do you realize you had this card here and here and here and here? And it will start to track patterns, which I then go, oh, isn't that interesting? And I take those into my human coach, and we talk about that. Yeah. So I have I've real human beings as coaches, but I use the digital tools as pattern recognition. So between tarot and journaling, and then my own coaches is kind of how I would make decisions. And if I feel that I really want to, if it's something big, I will take it into the Akash, and I will sit in the Akashic Records, and I will allow myself to explore what the potentials are. Because in the Akashic Records, it's not just finding out stuff that happened in past lives for awareness. It's also about tracking timelines and understanding, well, if I follow this path, what will happen? And if I pull this thread, what will happen? And if I make this decision, what opens up for me? And you can find out that sort of information in the Akashic Records as well, which is really fascinating. So you can try certain things on for size and then see what fits.
I have another question about this, because something that's been coming up for me in my life recently is this fear of accidentally jumping into the wrong timeline, of like making the choice that's gotten me down a path that maybe I'm disappointed with or something. Yeah. How do you ensure that you don't feel trapped or stuck in a certain outcome?
Heavy.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's heavy.
Well, it's not so much heavy, but what that tells me is that as a human being, we human beings have this intense desire. This is rich coming from a Capricorn. We have this intense desire to be able to control and understand exactly how everything's going to work. And we don't like sitting in the unknown. We don't like sitting in that space between what is and what could be when the path is not clear, and it's very uncomfortable, and we don't like it. So that question tells me that you don't like that messy middle. You don't want to be there. You're like, no, I need to know exactly how this is going to work out.
Not like a messy middle. Yeah, I do not like a messy
middle, right? But I think what I say to my clients with that is, what's the invitation for you here? What's the invitation for you to explore in this messy middle? Because life does not work in certainties like that. I don't believe that we ever make any mistakes. Everything is just an opportunity for learning and growth and evolution. I don't believe there's any, like, we don't make a mistake and then we're stuck there forever. It's like, okay, what's this
I'm
teach
with
me?
you, Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I don't think you're ever going to be in the wrong timeline. I think that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, Killian. And it'll lead you to something else that you're supposed to be doing. I don't know. That's why I was sorry if it sounded that I sounded heavy by saying like heavy, because I'm like, Killian, you're exactly perfect. Like,
and I think as well, when we remember who we really are, and we remember that we are sparks of divine source energy expressing itself as Killian, Amanda, and Debbie right now, then what can possibly go wrong? Because essentially you are the source energy, you are the God energy, the goddess energy, the source, the creator, whatever you want to call it, great spirit, whatever you wish to call it, expressing itself as you right now. So on that level, you know, if you want to take it to a scientific point of view, okay. You know, from a quantum point of view, there's infinite potential, but depending on the choices you make when that observable reality collapses into itself, it then becomes a set of probabilities that will happen. And that then becomes the golden thread that you're going to follow through your life. But I think the golden thread part, your soul plan, your life purpose, I think you've made a decision on that before you came here in my belief system. And therefore, if you continually follow what lights you up, if you follow the truth of you, then I don't think you make any mistakes, because even if something is apparently wrong, it will teach you something that will pop you onto another path. It will teach you something that then will put you somewhere else. So even if it's interesting, because I always wanted to be a teacher. Right? I either wanted to be a teacher or like a nurse or a doctor or something. And it was really quite interesting, because I went through my entire primary school and secondary school and university career with the intention of being a teacher, a school teacher, right? And then that didn't happen. And I remember going, well, what am I here for? I'm supposed to teach. Because I knew I was supposed to teach, and work I've done since in the Akashic Records has shown me I've been a teacher many, many, many times. And I was like, okay. At every job I went into, I ended up becoming the trainer.
Right.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a version of a teacher.
Yeah. So I was training them. I then ended up, I'm a Reiki teacher. I'm a spiritual teacher, right? And I'm a volunteer medic. So there's the medical side coming in. So it's like win-win. I've got both the things that I said I wanted to do in this life, but I've got them in a non-traditional way. Yeah. So I don't believe there's any mistakes. I think we fall back into the timeline. I think it's just a bit of a trendy term. A minute, let's hop timelines, let's have quantum leaps.
Yeah.
It's just human beings wanting to escape from the craziness that is 21st century Western life.
I know. I feel like I've gotten caught in that trend of like, oh, how do I hop out of this timeline? This timeline's crazy. But also, I mean, I heard you say, right, working with your clients, it's really about getting to know yourself and looking inward. So tell me if I've got this correct. It's like once we are acting from our true desires and our true authentic self, it's really, you can't really go wrong. However, if there's someone out there who might be acting not from their self, right? Whether it's like the pressures of their families or whatever, I think sometimes it's easy to feel maybe grief that you haven't always been listening to yourself. Yeah. And it's not a mistake, right? And that's part of the lesson.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I love about human design, right? So human design gives you your self theme and your not self theme. So you can see very clearly when you're not acting as yourself. So for manifesting generators, we get really frustrated if we're not acting in accordance with our true desire, with what it is that we really want. Manifestors will get really angry. Manifesting generators will get angry and frustrated, right? We will get both, right? We will get angry and frustrated. Projectors will get really bitter and cynical and pissed off, right? So it's really quite interesting about how the types start to, your not self theme comes along. So I think there are so many of us as human beings. We don't always live life on purpose according to our very highest desire all the time, because we're human beings, right? We've got to be here to make mistakes. We've got to understand what it feels like when things go wrong. Whenever, like I lost my dad at 14. My mum passed away 4 years ago. I've been through divorce. I've had redundancy. Life hasn't been a series of bed of roses along the way, but every single thing along that, those 4 things in particular, they all taught me something.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all led me to where I am now.
Yeah. Do you have signs that are consistently showing up in your life that have kind of been through line signs, whether it's like an animal symbol or
birds for me?
A song.
Oh, bird song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get songs, right? Spirit is very funny. Spirit will give me a song, and it's usually somebody that I don't like. It's usually a band or something, because I am into rock and metal. I don't particularly like pop music, so they'll give me like a Taylor Swift song, and I'll be like, what is this? And I have to like wash my ears out. And I'll get like just the line of the song over and over and over again. So like when I was making the decision as to whether to stay in my job or whether to commit and do this full time as as an entrepreneur, I kept hearing the song by Gwen Stefani, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?" And that kept and that phrase, "What are you waiting for?" kept appearing in different things. Like I would like see a magazine and there would be an article about time, and and I'd be like, okay. So that, but I first was awakening to my spirituality. I used to see magpies everywhere. And I've always been quite, not superstitious, but I've always been quite open to signs from the animal kingdom. So birds in particular, when I'm on the right path and things are going well, I see birds of prey and I see them soaring and I'm like, oh, nice. And that always gives me a feeling of, oh, that's going to be okay. That's going to be okay.
That.
But yeah, and random things. Like, I haven't quite figured out what this one is yet. But at the minute, every time I'm sort of making a decision in life or I'm about to change direction, I see lots of white cars everywhere. They're all white, every car. And it's like, have they run out of paint in the car factory? Why is everything white? Just all white. And I'm like, is this a blank canvas? What is this? So I'm still trying to work out what that one means.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. How do you experience? It sounds like you're clairaudient. Like, do you hear, like when you're channeling for the Akashic Records, are you hearing things mostly?
I kind of sense it. I do see as well. I would be relatively visual as well, but it's usually through hearing, and it's usually through, I'd be quite clairsentient. I'd feel it in my body. So I can actually feel sensations in my body, which is interesting at times when you're having perhaps a past life experience. It's not so nice. However, it's usually that sort of a way. Where it comes for me in particular with the records, I find I get so much more out of it if I actually speak it out loud as I'm going with it. So it's definitely a sound thing for me. And then I write it or I record it as I'm going in, because that exchange of energy, rather than just sort of sitting and waiting to see, you sometimes just see the back of your eyelids and you're like, well, this is useless.
Yeah. I've heard that writing can really help get it through, like just free writing. Amanda, I'm sorry I've been asking all the questions.
No, I'm taking it in and I'm just like, I honestly, in the back of my mind, I'm like, which one am I? Like with the
human design.
Yeah, I'm like, where am I? I'm very curious, and I'm like, don't forget, next thing on your list today.
Yeah, so if you go to Jovian Archive, and anybody listening that wants to find out, if you go to Jovian Archive, that's the original. There's a lot of different types out there, but they're the 100% original ones. Jovian Archive, if you Google that and then go in, you can get a free chart that'll just gives you the basics. It'll tell you what you need. And obviously, if you want some more detail, Amanda, give me a shout. Put you in the right direction.
I would love that. My mom and I were both Pisces. My mom passed away, and she would always do like our horoscope in the morning, or like check it, and would call me or tell me as a child or call me as an adult and give me a heads up, like, today's going to be rough, or guess what? There'll be a fun surprise coming up. And at that point in my life, it was always just, okay, there's this one way to know about yourself, your sun sign. That's it. And then time goes by and everyone's like, do you know what time you were born? Do you know like all the other details? Let's do your chart. And I was like, what's a chart? Like all of a sudden. And then you learn about your chart and then you learn about all the placements. And then now I have this other thing where I feel like I'm the one who's like constantly learning. Killian's like way more advanced than I am. And I'm just kind of like, me too. I want to know.
It's not a competition. It's not a competition. It's not a race. And this is what I love. It's about like, if it sparks an interest, then explore it and see. You know, because like human design spoke to me years ago, and then I started looking into it and went, this is far too confusing. Nope. And then last year I decided, along with the Akashic Records, because me and Jen have to do lots of things at once, I also trained in human design and was like, let's do both. And it was fascinating for me. And I chose to train in it only because I wanted to be able to have another way to help my clients, because
exactly,
people learn. And as a teacher, I know people learn in different ways. And they need information given to them in different ways. So some are visual, some want to listen to things, some want to like actually get involved. You know, because I train first aid as well. So it's very much like all these different things. It's like, right, okay, how do we make this understandable for you? So human design does the same thing, because then it's like, okay, if I know how you receive information, because when you get a full chart done, like, you know, bigger than just the free ones that you get online, when you get a proper chart done, you can find out like how you process information and how it's best, what environment you need to be in order to like get the best out of yourself, and how you digest not just your food but your information that you receive. And you know, there's so many different aspects of it. And then there's an incarnation cross that gives you like your life purpose as well, so it kind of gives you a direction and a steer as to the best way for you to move through life, and what will bring you the most fulfillment.
It can go so deep.
It goes
as
really
an indecisive person, these tools are very helpful.
No, they're really cool, because like they kind of give you permission to be yourself, right? They give you complete permission to be yourself. And it's like, well, okay, you might have been told you were indecisive, but it might just be that you have an open head center and you're bringing in all this information from everybody, and you're like, oh, like shiny object syndrome. Whereas when you then learn your authority and you're like, well, actually, no, you may have for example, a sacral authority, and you're like, well, if I go, then that means it's for me. If I'm like, that's not mine, you know. And there's like these different little noises and tools and things that you can play with. But interestingly with it as well, we're going back to what you said earlier about team building and offices and things like that, or workplaces. Whenever you're with other people, so if, let's say for argument's sake, you know, Killian has said she's a Manny Jen, let's say you were a projector, then you would be feeding off Killian's sacral energy and feeling uplifted when you're with her, and then feeling tired maybe when you're not. Because when we're together, we all light up each other's charts. Our energies intermingle, and then we light up each other's charts, and they change when we're together. And that's what's really fun about it.
What I think is just so fun, especially now, is that at one point in time, everyone's like, horoscopes, crystals, like so woo-woo, whatever. And then now everyone's like, maybe it's my algorithm or just what I've tapped into more, that people are like, no, this is real. This is something that is important. And I do like the idea of being like, this is not just for letting time pass by. This is something very applicable and can be in the wider scope to help everybody. And I love that you, as a medical care person, can apply, you know, and you're teaching, like you're applying these like very traditional roles in this more uplifted spiritual way. And I just think it makes it so much more relatable for some people who are just, they can't get a grasp. They're so logical. Maybe the Capricorns, who are like, oh, what is this? And then, you know, you're like, no, this can be for everybody. This isn't just like for a certain group of people. This is for everybody. This is human.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you know, because people sometimes say to me, they're like, do the two things not completely contradict each other? You know, you're working in conventional medicine, but you also work in alternative medicine. Are they not, you know, opposite sides of the coin? I'm like, no, they're complements. I mean, if you're bleeding out at the side of the road, you want a paramedic, you don't want a Reiki healer, right? Likewise, if you're having an emotional crisis, you don't necessarily want a medic throwing tablets at you. You want You want somebody that's going to look after your soul, right? So it's kind of a bit of both. Even as a medic, we meet people at their most vulnerable. So they need someone that is going to hold them energetically as well in order
I
Yes.
to
agree.
get them to where they need to be.
Which actually makes me think of another question, which before I ask, Amanda, what's your hour of birth and your city of birth? I'm going to figure this out on the side.
Right now.
Yeah. When were you
Okay.
born? What
Don't
time?
put it in the
No,
internet.
I'll bleep
though.
it. I'll bleep it.
Okay. City of birth is
Okay, before I dive into, I had a feeling. Before I dive into Amanda's chart, I want to ask you one
you
question.
can tell already.
I
Yeah.
think I knew what you were. But first, Debbie, question for you, because when you meet people and they are in a really intense emotional state,
Yeah.
you also have to protect your own energy, right? So how do you do that? What is your way of like holding space for another person, but also ensuring that it doesn't kind of get into your aura?
Yeah. So I have an opinion on this, that there's an awful lot of nonsense in the spiritual industry about we must protect ourselves at all costs and close ourselves off, right? And that's a real fear-based energy. And if you're operating in a fear-based environment, then of course you're going to take in all that stuff, right? So for me, because I practice Reiki every day, like every morning, like I fill myself with Reiki, I'm connected to source, I'm connected to my highest self, I'm connected to the love and the unconditional love that's there. Well, then there's nothing that can actually harm me, right? So I don't need to put a wall up between me and someone. But I do need to know what's mine. I do need to know what's my energy. I need to know myself well enough to go that actually I'm feeling a bit off now. That's not mine. And then I use my tools to clear it. I use my Reiki to clear it. I use, the techniques, the breath work, the whatever, anything that you're wanting to work on to clear it. There's various different things. You can use sprays, you can use your Reiki practice, you can use, call in Archangel Michael, you can bring in your angels, you can do what you need. But for me, in the morning, whenever I'm getting ready in the morning, I put myself in what I call a Reiki bubble for the day. And it's like, you know what? The good stuff can come in and I will give the good stuff out. And for me, it's about being a transmitter of the energy rather than a receiver. And you get to choose because you're an all-powerful sovereign being. Nothing can be put on you without your consent. And yes, I do find myself in some very traumatic situations as a medic and with very frightened people. And it's almost nearly like my uniform's the barrier. It's like when I put that uniform on, that's a different. It's like, right, okay. And yeah, there's times I come home and I have to shake it off. I have to forget what I've seen that day.
Yeah, but you have these tools. It sounds like you have such great access, right? Exactly. To, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do a Reiki clearing on myself.
It might be that you just simply have a shower, that you might simply have an actual physical shower and just, I wash off whatever I've picked up today. I wash off anything that's been put on me without my consent today. I wash off anything I've taken from other people inadvertently today. And then the most important bit, I call back what's mine. Call back my energy and I call back anything that's been taken from me today. And then I wrap myself in a bubble of light and be like, thanks very much. That's me.
Love that. Maybe that's why I shower at night and I sleep so well.
Well, I think I know why you sleep so well. And it's because you're a projector, Amanda.
Yeah.
You are. You're a projector and your profile is 1-3, which I don't know much about.
Oh, my birthday.
So 1-3.
13.
1-3. So the 1 profile means that you're naturally inquisitive and that you need to research and you like to understand everything about everything and go deep and ask questions. And because you're a projector, projectors tend to be natural teachers, but it's really important that you're given the opportunity because it lands better if you wait for the invitation to give your wisdom. So you may have over time maybe just been like, I need to jump in here, and people have not received it well. Whereas if you go, can I just ask, or can I just say something? And then they go, yeah, you've got the invitation. You can jump straight in and share your wisdom. And the 3 line means that you have to like trial and error. You like to try different things and experiment, because if you don't want to just take someone else's word for it, you want to try it yourself. It's kind of like a bit of the vibe that goes on there. It's a little snippet just of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Killian. Thank you, Debbie, for reading into that. The projector, I'll have to look into it more because I really am like, I don't know. You guys said something earlier about projector and I was like,
Well,
have no
all of the
idea.
projectors that I know really like to nap,
Oh,
but I don't know if that's
Yeah, I
a
like
projector
sleep.
I'm a
thing.
manifesting generator and I like to nap, but I'm 51, so I'm allowed.
Oh, I've always liked to sleep. Like I'm like 8 to 10 hours a night is kind of my
Nice.
zone.
Mhm.
Like I'm like if I get less than 8, like
Mhm.
I'm pretty useless.
Yeah, so projectors need to do that. So projectors
Yeah.
don't have, when you look at your chart, you'll see that your sacral is not defined. And that means that you don't have the consistent access to that center. And the sacral center is usually the source of the life force energy. It doesn't mean you don't have life force. It just means you don't have consistent access to a reliable battery all the time. So you'll use your energy and then you'll need to recharge. You'll use your energy and then need to recharge. Whereas Killian and I, as Manny Jens, we have consistent access to that. It's like a battery that's always plugged in. So
that's
the
so nice
problem
for
with
you.
that is, well, it is, but the problem with that is if we don't wear ourselves out, then we won't sleep properly at night. So if you don't wear yourself out physically and, in your day, then you can find that you don't sleep at night.
Yeah, I like a life of leisure. I don't want to be too much. I'm
See?
just like,
It's perfect. You're
I was
living your design.
talking to Killian earlier. I'm like, I started doing a lot of stuff now, and I'm already like, this is too much
I'm
for me.
tired.
I have to like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is enough.
Yeah.
I need to take. It's 10:30. I need a nap again.
But what's really interesting about projectors, you've got this, projectors have like a penetrating aura, which means like you can kind of reach in and your aura's already 60 feet ahead of you going, what's happening? And feeding you back that information. And it'll depend, what's her authority, Killian?
I was going to ask about that. Solar plexus.
Solar plexus. So solar plexus is that real sort of emotional authority, which means you need 24 hours to make a decision. You should not make a decision fast. You need to sleep on it.
Yeah. That feels right to me.
Yeah. You need to sleep on it, and you don't want to make a decision when you're really highly emotional or when you're really low. You need to come back to a baseline. So you need to know what your baseline is and you make your decisions from there. So it's always important for you to wait 24 hours.
Thank you. That's why I say I'm indecisive, because I'm like, I can't choose this right now. I need
you're
a
not
minute.
indecisive. You're just tuning into your authority, which means you've got to just let your emotional state settle, and then it's like, right, okay.
And it's usually during my shower that I figure out the answer, to be honest.
Perfect.
It's always when I'm like, okay, nothing is on. There's no music. There's no distraction. There's no one else talking to me. There's no email. It's just me in the water and the mist and the steam and the quiet. And that is literally where all my ideas come. And everything just clicks. I'm like, oh, okay, I get answers here.
Love it.
Cool.
Well, thank you for that. I love a mini reading just to get the feel for what HD is. And I know we're at time here, but I have one final question, which is just that if you've ever, because we like to offer resources for our listeners, like if there's ever been a book that you've read that's felt really impactful or kind of changed your trajectory, what would that book be?
I don't know if I have a book that sort of changed my trajectory. I've read an awful lot of books, but one book that I encourage a lot of people to read, even if they are not Reiki attuned in any way, but they want to maybe understand the bigger system of Reiki rather than just the hands-on bit, because that's like the tip of the iceberg as to what Reiki really is. I recommend this one, The Way of Reiki by Franz Steen. And it's the inner teachings of Mikao Usui, who is the founding father of the Usui Reiki system, because there's a massive misconception that Reiki is just this thing you go to a healer for and they lay their hands on you and that's it. And that is literally less than 5% of what Reiki actually is. Reiki is much, much more than that. And this book is a very, very easy to read and clearly laid out way for even people who have no concept of what Reiki is to understand the deeper meanings and the way of life that Reiki becomes, as opposed to it just being, you go to a healer and you pay a few dollars for a session.
Yeah. Right. Killian, I think we need to start a book club based on everybody's recs.
I know. Well, I'm hoping to have a page on the site too, where we just like list them all out and quick, easy links to get your book list.
Yeah. This is an addition to the podcast.
Yeah.
Another
And I know
Another
another
sub.
thing for you, Amanda. I don't know, be
No.
careful.
Another thing to add to your list.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. This
You're
was
so
such a
welcome.
delightful conversation,
Yes.
and we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
I
thank you
know,
very much.
Debbie, you're so far
Yeah.
away. I wish you were closer for a hug. No, you're so lovely. Thank you so much for your
You're so
time
welcome.
and
Yeah.
enlightening me and our audience.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is so important to share. And I think that
100%.
a lot of people are getting a lot out of it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here and making it all the way to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed listening, please do help us get the word out. Pump us up in the algorithm by liking, subscribing, reviewing, all those good things. Much love. See you next time. You are supported, dear listener. It may not always feel that way, but there will be signs.